So today, I just want to talk about something that has concerned me over time. And it really begins with an interesting story about myself. As a child, one question that I'm sure many of you got, and I also did, from friends, from family, from parents, from people who cared about us or were just interested or wanted to strike up a conversation, is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I personally had the most interesting answers to that question, and my parents would never let me forget them because they consistently make a lot of jokes about it. My first career choice was I wanted to be a taxi driver. And for me, the logic was really simple. My father at the time, this was post-SAP Nigeria, lots of economic hardship. He had a take-home package that couldn't take him home. And so he figured, he would supplement that income by driving taxis. We used to call them kabu-kabu. And, I would see him get in the car, pick up a passenger, and they paid him as soon as he, dropped them off. And so I figured he was making a lot of money because all the money I could see was cash. And then, my second career choice was I wanted to be a policeman. And it was because I kind of noticed that the only person he really gave that money to before he got home was the police. Now, the good thing is I eventually turned out all right. I didn't become a taxi driver or a policeman, but I never lost my touch for cash. But you see, at the heart of that question, what do you want to be when you grow up, is really a sense of our society's general ambition. It's most times the correct answer, and I could see the bewilderment in the room when I said I wanted to be a taxi driver and I wanted to be a policeman, is that it's driven by personal ambition and the accumulation of wealth. Even for me, the reasons why we want to be taxi drivers, the reason why we want to be whatever it is we want to be, is so our families can be proud of us. But you see, in that irony between personal success in a society that, quite frankly, is a failed society, lies an interesting paradox of personal interest and collective interest. We in Africa, quite frankly, have the most interesting paradoxes. And I would argue it's at the heart of why many of us struggle with imposter syndrome. I am the richest man in the poverty capital of the world, right? I am a doctor, the best doctor in the world, in a society with 2 doctors to 10,000 people. I am a professor, the most educated diaspora population in the world, in a country with 10.5 million children out of school. Something clicks. But at the same time, we go back to our vomit of prioritizing personal success, personal interests over our collective that defines us as a society. And that's tragic. And it's tragic because one of the harshest lessons I've had to learn, and I learned this lesson at the age of 14, is that personal success will not insulate you from the failures of your society. When I was 14, on December 10th, 2005, a day I will never forget, I, by a hair's breadth, almost died. I had been scheduled to board a plane to Port Harcourt from Abuja. And I was traveling, was supposed to be traveling, with the brightest young people of my generation. We lived in a bubble we called the local jail for children, LJC. And some of you may know it as Loyola Jesuit College. In that bubble, life was great. We had clean water, fantastic teachers. We were insulated from the pressures of Nigeria. But then all it took was a 2-hour, 30-minute flight from our school to our home to burn all those dreams away and remind us again that in a society with airports that don't have fire ambulances, that in a society without good hospitals, that in a society where the vast majority don't have access to basic health care, emergency health care, it doesn't matter how successful we become. Everything can be taken away. And that has got me thinking a lot over the years. Because what I quickly realized is that in reality, we failed as societies because we are a people who define success by our individuality, by our individual success, by the worship of me, the doctor, and me, the lawyer, and me, the wealthy politician, and me, the, rather than our society. I'm a tech entrepreneur, right? And a fantastic introduction was read for me. They usually are. Founded 2 companies, important, this, that. But at the end of the day, the goal is exceptionalism. Here is the one African guy who proved this was possible. And it often weighs me down because for me, that's a shame, really. That only one person or one group of people could do the things that I've done. And in that acknowledgement of my privilege is a realization that perhaps the imposter syndrome is justified. Because in a more equal society, would I really be the one standing here? In a more equal society, would we be in our seats? Or would other people be more qualified? And so a month ago now, I decided I was tired of dealing with this internal conflict of personal success versus the collective interest. And so I officially retired. And myself and a group of friends came together and started asking ourselves, what does it mean to build a future in the interest of the collective? And that's probably going to be the next chapter. We're still figuring it out, but 3 key concepts have popped out at us in asking this question. The first is you have to have a commitment to collaboration. You see, Africans are the most fiercely competitive people I have ever seen in my life. And it's very funny, the kind of things we compete about. A bigger house. I better pass my neighbor. First class versus business class. We don't compete about who's going to put the most kids in school. We don't compete about who's going to go to the hospital and pay the most bills. Our billionaires who we glorify do not compete about how much impact they would have made. They are content being the one-eyed man in a kingdom of what? Blind people, which is what we've become. And so for me, that commitment to collaboration for the common good is the first principle. The second principle is the courage to stand up against vested interests. For the last 4 years, I've spent time in the financial industry. which I would argue every Nigerian should be ashamed of. We don't have banks in our country. We have government loan books. And if you're a finance professional, you can't look at these things, which are the cesspit of elite corruption. They don't add any value to society, and say, this is a financial institution worthy of the kind of growth my country deserves. Yet many of us bring them here, we glorify them, give them chair positions. We have to be able to speak up for the common man. Because that is the person, that is the identity that defines our excellence. It's not about the people here who've had the privilege of going to Harvard or LSE. It's about the average man on the street. Does he have that opportunity if he were bright enough? Does he have that ability if he wasn't in the right place at the right time? Are we merely the products of luck, just enjoying lottery of birth? And if we are, then we have to do something to fix it. And the third is the concern to act now. You know, there's something I hear a lot of my colleagues say. You know, I want to work hard and make money in the private sector, and then when I have money, I'm going to go and change people's lives. It's a lie we tell ourselves. Why can't you change people's lives today? And no one is saying you need to come home. No one is saying you need to abandon your career or whatever it is you enjoy doing. But it is a sense of responsibility that says, if my brother is down, then I am down too. It is a deep understanding of the idea that I am because we are. It's not just a saying we say to sound kumbaya. And so, if we're ashamed about how the rest of the world looks at us, then we should be ashamed about the child in Makoko who can't get an education. We should be ashamed about that 13.5 million kids out of school. And we should put in the junk there's another side to Africa. No one cares. I don't. And I don't think those kids do either. As an elite, we have failed our society. And we have to fix it. In the first book of Corinthians, verses 10, verse 24, I have to quote Bible, I'm sorry, I'm a pastor's kid. It says, let us not seek our own interest, but the interest of each other. Our elite have to do better. We have to grow up. We have to take responsibility for our societies. We cannot sit here and be throwing missiles into the open, claiming we're intelligent. Where is the proof? Yeah? And in closing, I hope that our elites start to think, rather than ask each other, as we have for an entire generation, what do you want to be when you grow up? We have to ask ourselves, who do we want to be when we grow up? Thank you.